Thank you for watching Part C of the story. Part D video is the story of Dr. Yasaku's spiritual reading session.
Reuniting with my deceased mother? I have a female friend, Ms. E, who runs a company and is in her early 60s.
Ms. E possesses a strong spiritual sensitivity, but had never shared it with anyone for many years.
It was only when I mentioned my intention to write this book that she opened up about her experiences.
However, since many of her stories are difficult to believe without first-hand experience, I will refrain from discussing them here. Shortly after our first meeting, one morning, Ms. E called me. Her tone was unusually polite, which immediately made me suspicious, since she was normally quite straightforward. Then, to my shock, she said, "I actually wanted to talk to you about your mother."
My mother?
Yes, ever since we met, she has been reaching out to me, saying she is very worried about you and wants to talk to you.
I couldn't believe it.
Could such a thing really happen? I was familiar with cases of spiritual communication in research literature, but experiencing it personally was overwhelming.
Why would my mother be worried about me? Is there something that troubles her?
I asked. Because you have been sending her intense feelings of guilt. But how could she sense my... She just told me. I'm not sure how. I fell into deep thought. I had always felt regret for not being able to fully care for my mother in her later years, and every night before bed, I would pray and apologize to her. Sensing my inner turmoil, Ms. E interrupted my thoughts. What do you want to do?
I wasn't sure if speaking to a spirit was a good idea, but I was both curious and hesitant. Finally, I said, "All right, let me meet my mother."
A spiritual reunion. 2 weeks later, at the end of March, the spiritual session took place at the home of Ms. F, a master of a traditional Japanese dance school and a close friend of Ms. E. They asked me to relax and empty my mind. Suddenly, Ms. E bent forward as if bowing, and in the next instant, she began to speak. "Naoki, I'm sorry. I've made you worry. I'm so sorry."
The voice was no longer hers. It was my mother's.
It was as if the moment my mother appeared, Ms. E disappeared entirely. I was stunned. The way Ms. E spoke was exactly how my mother used to talk when she was younger and emotional.
"Mom, I'm doing well now. You don't have to worry. I'm so sorry for making you worry so much."
You can rest assured. There's nothing for you to be concerned about. All right, then I am relieved. My mother's tense demeanor seemed to soften, and her tone became neutral again. She remained silent unless I asked her something, simply being there. After a while, I took the initiative to ask, "Mom, can I ask you a few questions?" She nodded gently. Ms. F, sitting beside us, smiled and gave me an okay gesture with her hand.
"How did you die?"
I've always wanted to know. It was a sudden heart attack, I think. I suddenly recalled what the police had told me after her passing. People who suffer heart attacks while bathing often collapse, and sometimes we find them partially submerged in the bathtub. When exactly did you pass away? Was it the day my brother didn't call you? Or earlier? By the time he didn't call, I was already here. It was the evening you left. May 6th, the date recorded in the forensic report. My mother had a habit of bathing at around 5 p.m., and my brother usually called her at 6 p.m. I continued asking, "That day you went shopping with my brother and his wife, right?" She tilted her head slightly, but said nothing.
I recalled my brother telling me that on that day, my mother seemed unusually quiet and weak.
My sister-in-law had also noticed that when she held my mother's hand, it felt cold. Perhaps her body had already begun to weaken before she passed. "Mom, do you think I should have forced you to live with me before you passed away?" I don't think that was necessary. But in the end, you had trouble moving around, didn't you? Not to the extent that I couldn't manage.
Her simple answers lifted a burden I had carried for years.
I had always felt guilty for letting her live alone in her final years, but now, it seemed that she did not blame me at all. Then another question suddenly came to mind.
"Mom, When did you take off your wedding ring?
You didn't notice? I took it off more than 2 months before I came here, after your father's Memorial Day, February 15th. I placed it with the postcard on top of the wardrobe.
I had assumed that she removed the ring as she sensed her end approaching, but it turns out she had done it long before.
Perhaps on my father's Memorial Day, she simply felt it was time. Surprisingly, Ms. E, who knew nothing of our family matters, had conveyed these details perfectly.
Did you meet Dad over there?
I asked. I will not see him. She turned her face slightly downward, avoiding eye contact. Her response surprised me. Had there been unresolved conflicts between them? Did removing her wedding ring symbolize cutting ties with my father? Though they had seemed peaceful in their later years, perhaps there were secrets I was unaware of. I decided not to press further.
What about Grandpa and Grandma?
I've seen them.
And Aunt?
Yes? Her quick responses were just like how she had spoken in life.
Mom, how did you know I felt guilty about you?
After a brief pause, she smiled softly.
Have you been watching over me? Yes.
She smiled again, the same way she always had.
Have you seen me praying for you every night?
Yes? She chuckled. Are you happy where you are? She nodded with a warm smile. Do you know when I will join you? You mustn't ask such questions. She looked slightly embarrassed, as if she knew but couldn't say. In any case, don't worry about things over here, she reassured me.
All right. Should I continue visiting your memorial site every month?
That would make me happy. At that moment, Ms. F interjected, Can he stop leaving offerings? Yes, that's not necessary. My mother's firm tone was just like before. There were many more things I wanted to ask, but I instinctively felt I shouldn't hold her back with earthly matters. It was time to say goodbye.
All right, I will take care of everything.
You don't need to worry anymore. Good. And you and your brother must not fight. We won't, I promise. Good.
You won't be coming back again, will you?
No, I won't. Take care of yourself. Hearing her calm, unwavering tone, I suddenly felt free, like a lion cub being pushed out of the den. Mom, you take care too. Goodbye. Miss E suddenly sat up straight and opened her eyes. Congratulations. Your mother is so straightforward and decisive. Miss F added, she is really quick and to the point. Unlike spirits who linger with regrets, my mother departed with clarity and peace. It was just like her, decisive and unwavering.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Share it, because some stories are meant to be discovered together. And stay curious. I'll see you in the next chapter.